After my rebirth, mother held me close and teased, "Jiao Jiao, which of them would make a good husband for you?" I glanced at my two young cousins. In my past life, one had killed me, and the other had killed my body double. Both were ruthless, wolf-like figures. If I got involved with them again, would I even survive? I couldn't help but cry bitterly. I clung to my mother's neck, whining, "Mother, I don't want either of them." Then, "Take both." Mother's expression was unwavering. Me? Main text: on the day Jiao Jiao ascended the throne, he specifically came to the cold palace to see me. Dressed in imperial regalia, he drew the emperor's sword and pointed it at me in fury. He accused my father of hoarding military power, my mother of wielding influence, and me of usurping the imperial consort's position. Our entire family, he declared, was a nest of treacherous villains who dared to plot against the court. He declared me wicked and jealous, deserving death to atone for my crimes. I couldn't help but laugh, raising my eyebrows to ask, "Is shouting these accusations the only way you dare to kill me?" His eyes turned icy cold. Without a word, he thrust the sword into my chest. Splattering blood blurred my face and stained his robes. My soul hovered above the palace, unable to depart. I watched as Jiao Jiao hastily buried my body, keeping the death secret. He then seated a woman bearing my likeness in the imperial bedchamber, pretending I still lived. Soon after, chaos engulfed the realm. Prince Anhui, Zhao Pinyin, rebelled and stormed the palace. He slew the woman who bore my likeness with a single sword thrust, then fought Jiao Jiao to the death. Later, I opened my eyes and lived again. Back to the age of 6. Strong yet gentle arms cradled me, a finger lightly tapping my cheek. "Jiao Jiao, who should be your husband?" It was the voice of my mother, the princess consort of Zhaoyang. Her face radiated doting affection, vibrant and vivid, not yet the dust she would become. My heart surged with excitement as I followed her gaze to the left. That sight stunned me into silence. There stood two exquisitely carved little figures. 8-year-old Jiao Jiao, 9-year-old Zhao Pinyin. One utterly docile, the other profoundly gloomy. In my past life, one killed my true self, the other killed my stand-in. Ultimately, both sought to kill me. If I became entangled with them again in this life, would I even survive? I burst into tears, wailing pitifully. I remembered this time last lifetime. Heeding my mother's words, I'd pointed at Jiao Jiao with a smile, declaring him my husband. Though mother laughed heartily at the time, she'd clearly begun scrutinizing and favoring Jiao Jiao afterward. Later, she handed over father's tiger roar army to Jiao Jiao, propping him up to ascend the throne. She'd hoped Jiao Jiao would treat me well. But after she died, I was immediately banished to the cold palace. Jiao Jiao, he truly is heartless. As for Zhao Pinyin, even at his young age, he was perpetually gloomy, never smiling or playing. I was terrified of him. Later, he even forced a coup. Neither of them is a good sort. I never want anything to do with them again. I cried even harder. Mother hurried to comfort me, asking them to leave first. Only after they departed did I sob quietly, clinging to mother's neck and whining, "Mother, I don't want anyone else. I only want you. If the choice is so difficult, then take both." Mother's tone was firm. Me? Accepting my rebirth wasn't that difficult. It was my greatest wish after death. But to say rebirth meant a new mind? That was absolutely impossible. It took me a while to finally accept this reality. I was reborn, but my mind seemed unchanged. I idly flipped through the books before me, admonitions for women, instructions for women, virtues of women. I heard these texts were written by a virtuous empress of the previous dynasty, revered as essential reading for all women. Many took pride in mastering them. In my past life, under my wet nurse's guidance, I memorized every word. But what good did it do? When my mother died, I was still bound by these rules, unable to mourn at her bedside. Because I was the empress, and she was a subject, a distinction of rank. Shedding a few tears was all I could offer. I begged Jiao Jiao, but I couldn't step outside the palace gates. Now, just seeing these books fills me with disgust. I swept them all under the table with one swift motion of my sleeve and dashed out. Today, the front courtyard hosts Mother's benevolent discourse assembly. The most learned scholars in the capital gather to discuss state affairs. No matter how well or poorly they speak, none will be punished. Students across the land would break their necks to attend this assembly, hoping to leap through the dragon gate. In my past life, I'd grow drowsy the moment those great scholars began quoting classics and criticizing the ills of the time. But now I've come to understand, since I lack a brain, I should listen more to those who do. I barged into the gathering. Mother saw me, paused in surprise, then beckoned me joyfully, pulling me into her embrace. Scanning the room, I spotted Jiao Jiao and Jiao Pinyin seated upright. Both sat stiffly, their expressions too intimidating to discern whether they were truly listening. I immediately adopted a posture of attentive hearing. The two scholars were debating the topic. Qi Huan entrusted Guanzhong exclusively and achieved hegemony. Yan Kuai entrusted Ziji exclusively and met defeat. In the past, I couldn't understand what they were saying. But now, I vaguely grasped the meaning. The person who raised this topic had ulterior motives. Duke Huan of Qi entrusted Guanzhong, achieving hegemony. Yet upon Guanzhong's death, Duke Huan's hegemony crumbled. Meanwhile, King Jikueo of Yan entrusted Ziji, even abdicating the throne to him. This provoked resentment in the crown prince, who eventually raised an army in rebellion, plunging Yan into chaos. How could this possibly be about Duke Huan of Qi and King Jikueo of Yan? It clearly speaks of the emperor and his mother. During that palace upheaval, eunuchs colluded with court officials, slaughtering princes and princesses before setting the palace ablaze. It was my mother, then still a princess, who joined forces with my father to turn the tide, suppress the rebellion, and enthrone the emperor, who was merely a distant cousin. After ascending the throne, the emperor could not match his mother in bloodline, power, or gratitude. He could only enshrine her like a great Buddha. He bestowed upon her the title of Grand Princess Zhaoyang and upon me that of Princess Minghua, yet these honors fell far short of her true merits. Had mother been Guanzhong, this would have been unremarkable. But if mother were Ziji? Whoever posed this question was clearly using a metaphor to criticize my mother. In my previous life, she forced me to marry Jiao Jiao and paved his path to power by handing over father's tiger roar army to him. All this proved she prioritized the realm's stability over renewed warfare. But what good is being a loyal minister? When she died, her only daughter couldn't even see her. After her death, Jiao Jiao immediately banished me to the coal palace, and I was ultimately stabbed to death. My anger flared instantly. Hearing that scholars speak of Ziji's execution with schadenfreude, I could not restrain myself from retorting, the fool was the king of Yan. Had he not been lazy, Ziji would never have seized power. Had he not been incompetent, he would not have heeded his minister's slanderous words and orchestrated the abdication. Had Duke Huan of Qi been a true enlightened ruler, he wouldn't have immediately appointed treacherous ministers after Guanzhong's death. The fault lies with the king of Yan and Duke Huan of Qi. What does it have to do with Guanzhong or Ziji? If Guanzhong and Ziji truly erred, it was likely in serving these two monarchs too well, rendering them utterly useless. These words sent shockwaves through the room. The two Confucian scholars gaped, utterly speechless. The others exchanged glances between me and mother, the room falling deathly silent. Mother slowly plucked a grape and placed it in my mouth, smiling tenderly. My son possesses extraordinary insight. His words ring true. What say you, gentlemen? The crowd murmured in agreement, praising my foresight and exceptional intelligence. I received more compliments than I ever had in my life, grinning from ear to ear. In my previous life, these same people only praised my natural beauty and graceful figure. How different from the flood of flattery now. Laughing, I suddenly couldn't laugh anymore. I stared at them wide-eyed. Could it be that in my past life, they'd been finding clever ways to call me stupid? Scholars are so wicked. After the gathering, mother immediately pulled me into the inner chambers, pinching my little cheeks as she examined me from every angle. I shook off her hand, rubbing my face that had nearly been squashed into a dumpling. Mother, what are you looking at? I'm checking if you're still my daughter. How did you get so clever? Me. Seriously? Is that something a real mother would say? Mother, did I say something wrong and cause you trouble? My emperor uncle isn't exactly magnanimous. He's petty, he'd confiscate the tutor's property after death just for a few harsh words. Today, my words amounted to accusing him directly. Though I was defending Mother, I truly feared it might bring disaster upon her. Mother, however, burst into laughter. Well said. Protecting your mother makes me happy. If you didn't protect me, that would truly break my heart. But where did you learn all this? How do you understand it? Me. This really wasn't something a 6-year-old should know. I could only resort to stubborn evasion. I picked it up here and there, Mother. I'm quite clever, you know. Is that so? Mother looked skeptical, but she stopped teasing me and told me to go play outside. Just as I stepped out the door, I heard her whisper inside, clever to the point of being demonic. Somehow, that made me feel less than happy. Hey, it's all my fault for being too smart. If only I were a bit more foolish, Mother wouldn't have to worry so much. He. The moment I stepped outside, Jiao Jiao intercepted me. He was only 8, yet his small face already hinted at the dignified, jade-like appearance he would later possess. Thinking back to my past life, he had stabbed me through the heart with a single sword thrust. How much affection there had been before. Now, how much loathing. And the words that came from his rosy lips weren't exactly pleasant either. Jiao, you were truly unwise to defy the great scholar today. I vaguely recalled that in my past life, he seemed to have said something like this too. With my current struggles, your extravagance only compounds my difficulties. Father rules the realm through filial piety. Instead of tending to Mother, you insist on returning home. How am I to manage? As the newly crowned crown prince, you must guard your words and actions more carefully henceforth. Avoid giving others leverage. Only when the inner court is peaceful can the outer court remain stable. Such words, and many more, were not wrong in themselves. That is, if adding one extra pearl to a hairpin counted as extravagance. If his mother hadn't deliberately fallen ill on the day of my return visit. If he himself had been cautious enough not to be caught off guard by the Grand Secretary. He allowed himself to be unconstrained, reserving all propriety for me. In my past life, I couldn't see through the bonds of love, my heart tied to him. Swallowing my pride was one thing. But now? Why should I endure? I was about to curse him out loud when I remembered that sigh about wisdom bordering on demonic cunning. I forced myself to hold it back. I pouted, then burst into tears. I cried so loudly. Jiao Jiao panicked, waving his small hands frantically. I didn't say anything. Don't cry. Mother hurried out, crouching down to wipe my tears with a pained expression. Seizing the moment, I rushed to complain. Mother, he insulted me. He said I shouldn't have argued with that scholar. He even called me stupid. Mother's anger flared. Jiao Jiao was dumbfounded. Mother asked him to leave and never return to the princess's residence. Seeing Jiao Jiao's bewildered expression, I felt elated inside. My uncle, the emperor, wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. What little cunning he possessed was likely focused entirely on Mother. He had his 2 sons visit the princess's residence every other day, hoping to cultivate closeness, and perhaps even considering a political marriage. To ensure the throne's continuity, he was willing to stake his 2 sons as a gamble. In my past life, I foolishly chose Jiao Jiao. He later became crown prince and ascended the throne in splendor. But what of me? My entire family was executed. This lifetime, Jiao Jiao shall never claim the throne again. I slowly wiped away my tears, a smug smile curling my lips. Smiling, my eyes caught a fluttering hem in the corner. Its owner stepped out slowly, Jiao Jiao. He held up the candied hawthorn on a stick expressionlessly. Want some? Me. The 20-year-old Qi Jiaolua wouldn't crave candied hawthorn. But the 6-year-old Qi Jiaolua did. Even if it killed me, I wouldn't eat it. Me, only children eat candied hawthorn. I turned away haughtily under Jiao Jiao's stunned gaze. But the very next day, I bumped right into Jiao Jiao at the candied hawthorn stall. We stared each other down. I acted decisively, buying the entire batch with a silver ingot. I took one for myself, then had the vendor give one to every child, except Jiao Jiao. Jiao Jiao's face darkened. I feel like you're singling me out. How could that be? I mumbled, chewing the sweet, sticky candy. Take the feel out of it. Why? What did I ever do to you? I thought about it carefully. Since childhood, I'd always played with Jiao Jiao. I didn't know Jiao Pinyin very well. The reason was simple: he was too cold, never smiling. Unlike Jiao Jiao, who even when criticizing me carried a gentle grace that made you believe he genuinely cared. But now I realized Jiao Jiao's kindness was like a slow-acting poison. You'd be poisoned without even noticing. Jiao Pinyin, on the other hand, was the kind that could kill you with just one bite. I said coldly, "There's no why. Jiao Jiao offended me. You're his brother, so you've offended me too. From now on, I won't play with either of you." Being 6 years old had its perks. I could choose who to play with and who to ignore. Jiao Pinyin was speechless. I walked away triumphantly, clutching my candied hawthorn on a stick. Only after a long while did I notice Jiao Pinyin was still following me. I was puzzled. Why aren't you in class at this hour? Logically, Jiao Pinyin should have been studying with his tutor at this time. How could he have the leisure to wander the stalls? As he passed by me, Jiao Pinyin coldly remarked, "Why should I tell you? You're not my mother." Me. Eventually, I figured out why Jiao Pinyin was out causing trouble when he should have been in class. Turns out his tutor had fallen ill, so he went to visit. Afterward, he decided to wander around for a bit. Mother sneered, "The empress of a great nation resorting to such tricks to bully a 9-year-old child? Truly laughable." Jiao Pinyin was the eldest son of Empress Yuan. After Empress Yuan's early death, he was raised under the name of the Empress Dowager. His tutor was indeed a renowned scholar, but the old man was frail, frequently ill, and had a blunt temperament that displeased the emperor. He had long since withdrawn from court affairs. He was unable to teach Jiao Pinyin. Second, he could not serve as Jiao Pinyin's support, merely holding the title of Grand Tutor in name only. As for Jiao Jiao, he had another great scholar teaching him privately. That scholar was in the prime of his life, capable not only of instructing Jiao Jiao but also holding an important position in the court. He was destined to become Jiao Jiao's advisor in the future. So Empress Ji had been paving the way for Jiao Jiao this early. And in my past life, no one knew how Jiao Pinyin had managed to survive. I suddenly felt a flicker of sympathy for him. But the moment I pictured his future godlike appearance, that sympathy vanished instantly. Pa. 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 What nerve, daring to feel sympathy for a man. I turned to my mother. "Mother, shouldn't I also hire a great scholar to teach me?" Mother looked utterly horrified. I recalled my previous life at this age, still throwing tantrums, demanding food and drink, sleeping until noon. No wonder Mother. I was about to think of some excuse. Mother pinched my cheeks, once again molding them into a plump dumpling shape. "Don't regret this." With that, she burst into laughter and stormed out. The next day, I found myself with 3 Confucian scholars. Seeing my stunned expression, Mother solemnly declared, "From today onward, you will study under these 3 masters. If anything is lacking, tell your mother, and I shall find you more." Me. "Mother, are you a demon? 3 men against one of me? That means 3 times the punishment." Mother chuckled. "Any objections?" Under the stern gazes of the 3 scholars, I shook my head tearfully. "None." From that day onward, I studied under the 3 great scholars. Jiao Jiao and Jiao Pinyin truly never returned to the princess's residence. Curious, I asked Mother. A mocking smile touched her lips. "The Empress likely has another clever plan." I murmured "Oh" in deep agreement. In my past life, Empress Ji had successfully navigated the princess's mansion. This lifetime, that path was blocked. She'd surely devised something else. And I harbored deep loathing for Empress Ji. She was a sickly beauty, perpetually complaining of headaches and fevers. For some reason, the emperor fell for her act. In my previous life, she nearly drove me mad. Because she was always ill, I had to perform filial duties before her. Failure to attend would be deemed disobedience, a heavy burden that tarnished not only my reputation but that of the entire princess's residence. Now, I refuse to enter her orbit. Let's see how she can cause trouble without me. Still, the year's end draws near. My mother and I still had to pay our respects to the empress in the palace. Empress Ji still looked as sickly as ever. Zhao Jinxing stood beside her, his filial devotion and concern written all over his face, as if he were the most dutiful son in the realm. But screw him. In my past life, that scoundrel made me play the dutiful son. Mother is unwell. I must attend to affairs of state. If you do not go, how will others perceive me? My dear Jiao Luo, outings can be arranged anytime. But with mother's persistent illness, I simply cannot muster a smile. Because of him, I felt confined within the palace walls, surrounded by the stench of medicine, my head throbbing unbearably. Now, I would gladly see him confined within the palace for the rest of his life. Zhao Jinxing spotted me and immediately descended the steps, his fair face breaking into a delighted smile. Jiaolua, it's been ages. How have you been? Empress Ji nodded with a smile. You two grew up together as childhood sweethearts. After so long apart, I imagine you've missed each other dearly. Jinxing, you and Jiaolua should go out and enjoy yourselves. There's no need to stay here attending to your mother. She then turned to my mother with a playful smile. This child, so mature beyond his years. At such a young age, he insists on tending to me. I hardly need his help, but out of respect for his devotion, I let him stay. Truth be told, he's waiting for Jiao Luo. You wouldn't believe it, but he rises before dawn. She was praising Zhao Jinxing while simultaneously tying him to me. I watched Mother with concern. In my past life, Mother was far too shrewd to simply believe my offhand suggestion of Zhao Jinxing. She must have had her own calculations. Perhaps Zhao Jinxing truly was exceptional, unmatched in status across the realm, or perhaps Empress Ji's enchanting potion had worked its magic. Regardless, I didn't want Mother to rekindle her friendship with Empress Ji. Zhao Jinxing pulled me outside. I thought for a moment, then let out a soft whimper, forcing tears to well in my eyes. Mother immediately turned to look at me. Seeing my reddened eyes and the look of impending tears, a flicker of anger passed through her gaze. Jiao Jiao, what's wrong? Cousin. Cousin pulled me too hard. I raised my wrist. My skin was fair, and sure enough, 2 red marks stood out. Zhao Jinxing froze, staring blankly at his own hand. I didn't use much force. Mother said calmly, I've lingered too long with Her Majesty the Empress. It's time to pay my respects to His Majesty. Empress, I must take my leave. She immediately descended the steps, taking my hand and leading me out. Behind us, Empress Ji's slightly alarmed voice called out, Princess. Followed by a scolding directed at Zhao Jinxing, how dare you bully your cousin? She only visits the palace a few times a year. This was clearly meant for our ears. I glanced up at Mother, but she remained expressionless, continuing straight out. Once outside, she stopped and fixed me with a half-smile. You little rascal. We'll deal with you later. Why have you grown tired of Zhao Jinxing? Didn't you used to chase after him constantly? Me. No hero speaks of past foolishness. Who hasn't been young and foolish? I just don't like him anymore. He's always lecturing people, acting like everyone else is wrong and only he's proper and well-mannered. It's so boring. Mother sneered coldly, he'd better have the right to lecture others. I wouldn't even scold my own daughter, why should he get to lecture her? My heart ignited instantly. Exactly. That's the spirit. I grabbed Mother's hand and showered her with compliments. She teased me with a knowing smile, clearly seeing right through me, yet still relishing my flattery. Mother and I went to the Emperor's study, only to find Zhao Pinyin being scolded. You don't even understand the meaning of the greatest virtue of a gentleman is to be kind to others? What have you been studying? For 3 years we've had a great scholar teach you, what have you learned? Your younger brother is already studying the spring and autumn annals. You're not even as good as an 8-year-old, what kind of elder brother are you? The greatest virtue of a gentleman is to be kind to others is a phrase from Mencius. This is a text meant for 8-year-olds. If he truly studied diligently under a great scholar, he wouldn't be ignorant of it. But where would his teacher find the energy to teach him such things? Moreover, Zhao Jinxing has already progressed to reading the spring and autumn annals. He's really pushing himself. Zhao Pinyin knelt on the ground, silent. His head bowed low, his frail frame kneeling with utmost reverence, his entire being radiating listlessness and dejection. I couldn't recall how he had grown up in my previous life. After all, back then, he had been nothing more than a dispensable figure in my eyes. The emperor, seeing us enter, closed his mouth in anger and forced a smile. He coldly commanded Jiao Pinyin, "Why haven't you left yet?" Jiao Pinyin bowed and withdrew. As he passed me, he kept his gaze fixed straight ahead. Suddenly, I realized this presented a perfect opportunity to sabotage Empress Ji and Zhao Jinxing. I immediately spoke up, "Your Majesty, I know why he can't. His tutor has been ill for a long time. He spends his days buying candied hawthorn on a stick and snacking on treats." The emperor froze, turning to look at Mother. Mother nodded with a smile. "Indeed. I hear Grand Tutor Dong has been bedridden for quite some time. He likely hasn't had the chance to teach the crown prince." The emperor fell silent, his expression darkening considerably. Mother motioned for me to leave first. I gave the emperor a cheerful bow and ran off to play. Around a corner, a sudden voice startled me. "Why did you help me?" It was Jiao Pinyin. Help him? I'd clearly reported him. We were both scholars, why did he get to live so carefree while I faced 3 strokes of the paddle? "I didn't help you. I just couldn't stand seeing you snacking." Jiao Pinyin's face darkened, his expression unfriendly. "I'll remember this." He flung his sleeve aside and walked past me coldly. I felt a bit uneasy. This brat was ruthless, he'd even killed his own younger brother. I hurriedly said, "Could you at least remember the good I did?" Jiao Pinyin glanced back at me with a cold stare and sneered, "Have you ever done me any good?" Me? And so, the new year passed amidst the glow of countless lanterns. Within and without the court, everyone was all smiles and pleasantries. But no sooner had the new year passed than word came that Empress Ji had fallen ill again, gravely so. This time, however, the emperor not only failed to visit her, but instead ordered consort Lin to share the burden of managing the harem. Hearing this news, I couldn't help but smile. In my previous life, after I entered the palace, Empress Ji kept a tight grip on the Eastern Palace. As crown princess, I couldn't lay a finger on any real power there. This time around, her authority was being divided. Truly a cause for celebration. Yet, joy often breeds sorrow. When classes resumed after the new year, Jiao Pinyin unexpectedly appeared in my study. "What are you doing here?" Jiao Pinyin lifted his gaze and replied slowly, "I've come for lessons." "Why are you taking lessons at my residence?" "Father Emperor ordered me to." "Me? That dog of an emperor. How utterly devious. He banishes one son, only to send another in his place." The tutor had already begun the lesson, so I suppressed my flood of questions and focused on studying. But soon, I discovered the benefit of Jiao Pinyin's presence. The tutor stopped striking my palm and instead struck Jiao Pinyin's. My heart swelled with gratitude until tears welled up. So when Mother asked if I wanted to keep Jiao Pinyin, I hesitated. Mother gave a cold laugh. "This is His Majesty's wish. Mother also sees how lonely you are studying alone and wants to find you a companion. If you think he's suitable, keep him, if not, Mother has ways to refuse him. You needn't worry about that." I pondered deeply, what did His Majesty mean by this? Was His Majesty, seeing Zhao Jinxing's prospects fade, now placing his bets on Jiao Pinyin? Did he truly believe I must marry into the imperial family? In that instant, an overwhelming loathing welled up within me toward that man in the palace. It was the loathing born of having one's destiny dictated by another. However, outright rejecting the emperor now would only prompt him to deploy his despicable tactics against my parents sooner, a foolish move. I still hoped to use my rebirth to save my father's life. As long as he lived, my mother and I could still build a future. Jiao Pinyin was of little consequence. Instead, I would use this time to thoroughly teach Jiao Pinyin a lesson, showing him what true genius meant. Thus, I abandoned my usual classroom caution and feigned stupidity, instead flaunting my extraordinary talents at every turn. While the 3 great scholars nodded approvingly, their gazes turned to Jiao Pinyin, eyes filled with pity, as if looking upon a simpleton. Jiao Pinyin. I watched Jiao Pinyin become increasingly diligent. He studied day and night, even reciting lessons on his way to the lavatory. He was clearly trying to outshine me. But I wasn't the least bit worried. He was just a little brat, while I was a seasoned veteran returning from my previous life. However, I was soon stunned. On a crisp autumn morning, Jiao Pinyin successfully captured the teacher's heart, earning continuous nods of approval from the three scholars. Seizing the moment, he made an outrageously excessive request. Your humble student has recently caught up with the curriculum. Driven by ambition, I wish to begin studying archery, horsemanship, calligraphy, and mathematics. I humbly request the master's indulgence. The master was greatly pleased and immediately agreed to discuss it with his mother. I watched with wide eyes, unable to intervene. Rage boiled within me, this brat was sabotaging me. Archery, charioteering, and calligraphy, I hadn't studied any of these in my previous life. I immediately stopped Jiao Pinyin. Are you trying to sabotage me by learning so much? Jiao Pinyin laughed. Cousin, how could that be? You're so clever and quick-witted, you'll pick it up in no time. I'll even seek your guidance later. You're not scared, are you? He held out his hand before me with a playful grin. Even if you are scared, it's no big deal, just a slap on the hand, like when the teacher hits me. I clenched my fists in fury. That little brat was doing this on purpose. I turned and went straight to find Mother. Mother scooped me up in her arms, pinching my cheeks as she studied me closely. You've gotten plump, it's time to practice properly. I grimaced. Is that polite to say about your own daughter? And so, the matter was settled. In the days that followed, I had 6 tutors, and Jiao Pinyin and I shared the brunt of their hand slaps. Once, he sighed deeply. 1,000 enemy casualties cost us 800 of our own. I sighed just as deeply. Harm others without benefiting yourself? Serves you right. Days slipped by in a flash. During that time, Zhao Jinxing came to see me. Though I found it utterly tiresome, I met with him several times to avoid arousing Empress Ji's suspicions. Each time, he beat around the bush, trying to pry information about Jiao Pinyin's progress. His sneaky manner made me laugh in exasperation. How could I have ever thought him a proper gentleman in my past life? Perhaps it was because back then, everything flowed smoothly for him, no worries, no burdens. That's why he could maintain that jade-like gentlemanly demeanor. But in this life, he's on the decline. Without Empress Ji arranging everything for him, without the princess's mansion paving his path, he faces setbacks and reveals his true nature. Indeed, one's mindset is revealed in high places, and character is seen in low ones. Those who retain kindness when exalted and stay true to their core when fallen are worthy of deep friendship. Zhao Jinxing failed to achieve this in either lifetime. How regrettable that I was so naive and blind back then, unable to see anything. My eyes twinkled as I replied with a smile, Cousin Pinyin is a prodigy. I recall him reciting misfortune does not come without cause, nor does fortune arrive unearned the other day. He must have studied that far. Zhao Jinxing froze. The records of the Grand Historian? He's already reading that? How? How is that possible? I don't know, maybe? Zhao Jinxing walked away, utterly dejected. I stared at his retreating figure and let out a cold laugh. How difficult are the records of the Grand Historian? Many don't begin studying them until their 20s. A mere child could never comprehend the records of the Grand Historian. Zhao Jinxing always loved putting others down. Now, what could he possibly compare himself to? Suddenly, Jiao Pinyin stepped before me, his brows furrowed as he stared at me, as if I were some great enigma. I glared at him. What are you looking at? Jiao Pinyin replied meaningfully, you're wearing that smile again. It's kind of creepy. Me. I regretted reincarnating too soon. Otherwise, I'd have loved to see how this brat met his end. If he could show magnanimity facing his own killer, I'd respect him as a real man. Zhao Pinyin pressed, why did you deceive him? Do you hate him that much? I mimicked his tone, none of your business. I'm not your mother, no need to explain myself to you. Zhao Pinyin. For many days after, Zhao Pinyin and I began a competition, who can avoid getting their hand slapped and who can secretly pray for the other to get their hand slapped. We were neck and neck, and it was utterly exhausting. One day, Mother had me go to the palace to see Zhao Jinxing. Only then did I learn. Zhao Jinxing was ill, having worked himself into sickness. He rose at dawn and retired at midnight, sleeping less than 3 hours a day. The rest of his time was spent either studying or traveling to study. His frail body finally gave out, and a winter chill brought him down. Even in his sickbed, he mumbled recitations in his sleep. I sighed inwardly. No wonder he could have me wrapped around his finger in his past life. This boy was ruthless, both to me and to himself. The emperor listened and was deeply gratified, such diligence at such a young age. The empress has taught him well. Empress Ji wiped away tears, revealing a faint, joyful smile. Hearing this, I felt dread. I quickly rubbed my eyes and piped up in a clear, doubtful voice, "Cousin recites lessons even when sick, he must still be getting the master's paddle in his dreams." Uncle Emperor, the books say parents who love their children plan for their long-term future. Don't you love cousin? Why else would you push him so hard? He's so small and frail, yet he must rise so early. Cousin is truly pitiful. Wah! I cried shamelessly. Tears streamed down my face like they were free. Empress Ji panicked. The emperor's face darkened. I wept for Jiao Jiao as if he were dying. Jiao Pinyin couldn't bear to watch. After apologizing to the emperor, he pulled me away. I was reluctant to leave. Jiao Pinyin whispered in my ear, "Keep this up and you'll go too far. Watch out, father might marry you off to him for good luck." Hearing this, my tears vanished in shock. Close call. My cheap emperor uncle really could pull off such an inhuman act. I obediently let him lead me away. Jiao Pinyin took me to a secluded spot, released my hand, and sneered coldly, "Who would have thought? You put on quite the performance." I slowly wiped away my tears. "Cousin, what are you saying? If you were ever on your deathbed, I'd cry just as bitterly." Jiao Pinyin. Jiao Jiao convalesced in the palace for months on end, only gradually recovering as the year drew to a close. Word spread that the emperor had severely reprimanded Empress Ji, accusing her of treating her son as a pawn in her quest for favor. Forcing the child to study the records of the grand historian was nothing short of foolish and arrogant. Empress Ji, her dignity shattered, dared not retort, spending her days bathed in tears. This time, the emperor elevated Consort Lin to Imperial Consort Lin, entrusting her to oversee the New Year celebrations in the empress's stead. Days before the new year, father finally returned from the frontier. For him, it had been over a year since he last saw me. For me, it had been more than a decade since I last saw him. My father died in the early winter of the following year. I heard he fell in battle, though the exact circumstances remained unknown to me. Back then, no one in the mansion dared mention his death to my mother, much less speak of it to me, a child. All I knew was that I had lost my father. By day, my mother maintained the dignity of the princess's residence, but by night, she often wept herself to sleep. This time around, no matter what, I would protect my father. I threw myself into father's arms, clinging to him. He lifted me high, then tickled me with his stubble. I squealed, both delighted and disgusted. The emperor laughed heartily, declaring he would host a welcome banquet for father. Even mother's usually proud face broke into a pleased smile. After several days of bustling preparations, everything finally settled. I began to ponder, how could I help father avoid this deadly peril? The information I possessed was too scarce. Jiao Pinyin noticed something was off with me. He stopped me and whispered, "What devilish scheme are you hatching now?" I looked at him, suddenly overcome with curiosity. In his previous life, with no one to aid him or even acknowledge him, how had he managed to survive under Empress Ji's rule? How had he gained military power and led a rebellion? It seemed he was far more cunning and treacherous than I had imagined. I tentatively asked, why would an invincible general, with formidable troops and ample supplies, still fall on the battlefield? Jiao Pinyin frowned. In such cases, it's likely there's a traitor. My heart pounded violently. If there is a traitor, who would be the most likely suspect? Whoever the general's actions threatened while he was alive, that person would be the traitor. It struck me like lightning. With father dead, the princess's estate became a juicy prize. The military power father held, the wealth mother controlled, both would attract covetous eyes. Whoever married me would be the greatest beneficiary. With effort, I shifted my gaze toward the palace. In my past life, who truly harmed my father, the emperor, or Jiao Jiao and his mother? Noticing my troubled expression, Zhao Pinyin waved a finger before my eyes. What are you thinking about? I swatted his hand away and glared at him fiercely. Zhao Pinyin looked surprised. Did I offend you? I turned away in anger. Right. Your entire family has offended me. Days slipped by swiftly, and soon, father set out once more. The night before his departure, I deliberately conjured a nightmare, waking with shrieks. After waking, I clung to father, sobbing uncontrollably, telling him I'd dreamed of roaring battlefields and seen him wounded and bleeding. Father smiled and comforted me, dismissing it as nothing. My heart burned with anxiety. Father, if you truly don't care, what about mother and me? Father paused, gently stroking my hair. Don't worry. I have my own plans. The provisions, the troops, and those by my side are all trustworthy. I grew desperate, pointing toward the palace. What about the people there? Are they trustworthy? Father looked at me in disbelief. Gritting my teeth, I spat out, I hate the way they look at me, like I'm a piece of meat. If that meat has an owner, they can't take it. But what if the owner is gone? Father's body trembled. His eyes filled with sorrow as he pulled me tightly into his embrace. Jiao Jiao, you and your mother have suffered. Rest assured, your father knows what to do. Even if it costs me my life, I will protect you both. In his previous life, he truly had done so. Many years after his departure, the Tiger Roar army remained under Mother's command. But Mother couldn't personally earn military merit on the battlefield. Father's lingering authority and the debt of gratitude owed to him would gradually fade with time. This lifetime, with me reminding him, I believe he'll do better. Still, I couldn't fully relax. Day after day, I dashed to the palace, dragging Zhao Pinyin before the emperor. The emperor naturally tested Zhao Pinyin, who handled himself admirably, earning several praises and rewards. But eventually, he grew annoyed. If you don't tell me what this is about, I'm not strolling with you anymore. I panicked. If you won't come to the palace with me, you won't study at my house anymore. Fine then. You can take all 6 strokes of the paddle yourself. Me. You're ruthless. I carefully coaxed Zhao Pinyin, showing your face more often before the emperor, your uncle, can't that be beneficial for you? I'll ask you one more time, what are you hiding? I just want to see the palace's rare treasures. Keep spinning your yarns. I'll keep an eye out for rare things for you, but you're not coming along. He snorted derisively and headed toward the imperial study. Watching his retreating figure, my feelings were complicated. Zhao Pinyin wasn't as bad as Jiao Jiao made him out to be. He clearly knew I was talking nonsense, yet he still chose to help me. This feeling was truly magical. A few days later, Zhao Pinyin brought me a painting of a night banquet. This is the most extraordinary thing I've seen lately. Burn it after you look at it. I sketched it after stealing a peek. It can't see the light of day. I studied it carefully. The painting depicted figures within the palace, but one stood out, a barbarian, his features distinctly different from ours. Clutching the portrait, I knew it was the emperor. He wanted my father dead. Though I couldn't recall how my father died, I knew that after his death, the barbarians came seeking peace. They made outrageous demands, and the emperor agreed. In my past life, I thought the emperor was weak. Now I realize he was simply honoring his word. If they'd been secretly communicating all along, such clandestine talks couldn't have been conducted through letters. The barbarians must have sent someone over, and indeed, that's exactly what happened. Suppressing my rage, I offered Zhao Pinyin a few words of praise. Zhao Pinyin replied coldly, if you don't want to praise me, don't. Your tone is so sarcastic, I thought I'd offended you. Me. If it weren't for him sharing the blame for the hand-slapping punishment, I would have expelled him from the princess's residence. I glared at him fiercely and ran to find my mother. Feigning excitement, I whispered in her ear, Mother, look. There's a foreigner at the palace banquet. He looks different from us. Mother's expression darkened instantly. She snatched the paper from my hand. After reading it, her face turned ashen as she burned the paper with fire, then hurried out the door. I exhaled in relief, only to find a tear at the corner of my eye. I waited anxiously for news. Early winter. On the anniversary of Father's death from my past life, I silently prayed to all the gods and Buddhas, hoping they would answer. For many days after, a frosty chill enveloped the capital. Then, triumphant news shattered the cold, bringing a fiery warmth of celebration. A great victory at the frontier. Father had won. He had pursued the barbarians for over 100 miles, forcing them to abandon vast territories. Had it not been for dwindling supplies, he might have marched straight to their capital. The city erupted in jubilation, drums and gongs resounding. I quietly sniffled and cried. Mother held me close and wept too. She whispered softly, "Jiao Jiao truly is our little lucky star. We owe it all to you." This new year, Father would return to the capital to receive his title. The emperor was so overjoyed he couldn't sleep at night. Empress Ji looked haggard. Hearing that Zhao Jinxing had been falling ill frequently since recovering from his sickness, she was so troubled she had no energy left for court intrigues. Imperial consort Lin was at the height of her power. Though childless, she treated Zhao Pinyin quite kindly, seemingly considering taking him into her own care. I couldn't care less. What business did the affairs of grown men have with an 8-year-old child? I counted the days, waiting only for Father's return. Unexpectedly, horses galloped one after another from outside the city to the palace, bringing news that Father had been attacked. It was said a band of bandits disguised as merchants had killed him, and his fate remained unknown. Upon hearing the news, Mother left the city that very night to search for him. Before departing, she ordered the household to guard me fiercely. The nanny, terrified for my safety, watched over me like a hawk. In that moment, I bitterly wished I could return to my childhood. If I were just a little older, could I have helped my parents? Time flew by. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye, yet there was still no word from my parents. From weeping constantly at first, I gradually grew numb. I also came to understand one thing: I could help my father avoid one deadly trap, but as long as the emperor remained, as long as his suspicion persisted, as long as he passed that suspicion on to his successors, then the fatal knot binding father and mother would endure forever. You can't guard against thieves forever, but thieves can strike any time. In that moment, murder took root in my heart. But I was just a child. How could I possibly kill an emperor enthroned in the palace? I pondered this over and over, until my gaze settled on the Taoist fortune-teller who had come to the house. These days, with my parents gone, the household was in turmoil, and many monks and Taoists came begging, using divination as an excuse to utter a few auspicious words in exchange for generous silver rewards. I declared I would go to the Taoist temple to pray for blessings, even adopting the air of a master. The matron couldn't stop me and could only sigh heavily as she made preparations. On the day of departure, I encountered Zhao Pinyin. Dressed in full military armor, he noticed my gaunt appearance and, unusually, spoke kindly, "You must eat properly. If your aunt and uncle return and see you've grown thin, they'll be distressed." I gave a curt "Om-hom" and climbed into the sedan chair. Seeing him follow close behind, I snapped irritably, "I'm going to Daoguang Temple." "Where are you headed? Why are you trailing me? With your aunt and uncle away, I must protect you. Just focus on your own journey. Mind your own business. You can protect me?" I regarded him with a half-smile, half-sneer. I refused to believe he couldn't see the emperor wanted my father dead. He was now the son of my enemy. Zhao Pinyin's expression turned stern. "If I say I can protect you, I can protect you." He slapped the horse's flank and rode ahead to clear the way. Tall and imposing, his bearing was commanding. His armor gleamed brightly, giving him the air of a young general. I sighed deeply, unable to pinpoint the mix of emotions. I didn't want to quarrel with a mere adolescent, yet I lacked the magnanimity to let go of past grievances. So we remained awkwardly at odds. Upon reaching Daoguang Temple, the abbot himself came to greet me. After offering prayers, I toured his alchemy chamber and inquired about his elixir making. He spoke with evident pride, "Your Highness, do not underestimate the art of alchemy. It demands perfect timing, favorable conditions, and human harmony. Preparing the ingredients alone takes years. Selecting auspicious dates and times, if a single golden elixir emerges from a furnace, it is a gift from heaven. Only those blessed with fortune may partake of it. Truly, it is beyond price. Have you ever produced a golden elixir yourself? This humble monk, though unworthy, has indeed produced one golden pill. He stroked his beard, thoroughly pleased. I deliberately feigned ignorance, only one? Watching the old Taoist's face fall, my mood instantly lifted. I stayed at the Taoist temple for 3 days straight, turning the place upside down. I ransacked the old Taoist study, accidentally smashed an alchemy crucible, and offended the abbot along with a whole crowd of senior, junior, and novice Taoists. On the day I left, the entire temple breathed a sigh of relief. Some couldn't help but let joyful smiles slip onto their faces. I lifted the curtain of my sedan chair and said cheerfully, "I'll be back in a while." The smiles on their faces seemed to freeze. Satisfied, I withdrew my hand. The instant I lowered the curtain, I clenched my fist. The alchemy formula had been slipped into the study. I hoped the abbot would discover it soon. I'd done everything I could, the rest was up to fate. In my previous life, after the emperor had my father killed, he seemed to think his handiwork was complete and he could rest. He entrusted state affairs to several ministers, then indulged in the harem and the pursuit of immortality. The abbot of Daoguang Temple, obsessed with alchemy, actually managed to concoct a potent formula. This formula greatly increased the yield of golden elixirs. Those golden pills looked exquisite, appearing priceless. The emperor believed it. After 3 years of consuming the elixirs, he died suddenly. When Jiao Jiao was crown prince, he had obtained the formula and, with a deeply concerned expression, had criticized and scolded his father, putting on a show of profound filial devotion. At the time, I asked him, why not speak plainly and advise His Majesty? Even if you risked his rebuke, you couldn't stand by and watch him die. He sighed deeply, "You don't understand." I was deeply puzzled, truly believing I lacked insight and dared not offer unsolicited advice. Reflecting now, it's clear he secretly wished the emperor would die quickly so he could ascend the throne. How could he possibly dissuade him? That display of concern was merely a ploy to win people's hearts. How laughable that I feared he might be harmed, so I diligently memorized the alchemical formula to avoid being deceived. In my previous life, that painstaking effort went unused. Yet in this life, it unexpectedly proved necessary. Zhao Pinyin escorted me back to the capital. Along the way, we truly encountered a band of petty bandits. As he led his men in fierce combat, Jiao Jiao suddenly appeared with his own forces. With both princes present, the guards fought with extraordinary vigor, swiftly repelling the bandits. When they lifted my curtain, I ignored them both, feigning sleep as if I hadn't heard a thing. Jiao Jiao tried to wake me, but Zhao Pinyin seemed to cover his mouth and drag him away. Outside the palanquin, the two argued. "Let me see if my cousin is hurt. She's sleeping soundly. Don't disturb her. How could she possibly sleep? She prays day and night for our parents' well-being, consumed by worry. How could she not be exhausted? If you dare be disrespectful again, I'll report you to Father the Emperor upon returning." Under the covers, I couldn't help but cry. Now, I truly had become a tempting piece of meat, with everyone wanting a bite. The Emperor won't kill me. He'll simply have one of his sons marry me to showcase the imperial family's benevolence. This way, he can also subdue Father's tiger roar army and seize Mother's vast treasure trove. As a once genuine princess, Mother possesses far more than just the dowry bestowed by the Emperor. She also holds countless riches left to her by the late Emperor and Empress. All of this is enough to make anyone envious. The journey back was eerily silent. Only upon entering the princess's mansion did I finally wake up. "Cousin!" Jiao Jiao beamed, dramatically sheathing his sword before me as if he'd been guarding me all along. I yawned, disdainfully remarking, "How did you get so skinny? If you're unwell, you shouldn't be mimicking others with swords and spears." Jiao Jiao forced a smile and boasted, "Bandits just tried to attack. Did you hear? I saved you." I glanced at Zhao Pinyin, who sat sullen and silent, and said flatly, "I was asleep. Didn't hear a thing." "Brother Pinyin, were there really bandits?" Zhao Pinyin spoke slowly, "No. I immediately flicked my fingers across my face, mocking Jiao Jiao. You liar, shame on you. How could there be bandits under the emperor's nose? Are you implying Uncle Emperor's rule is lax? I'll go tell Uncle right now. Jiao Jiao panicked. His small face finally cracked, and he stomped his foot in anger. Don't go. You're ruthless. He stormed off in a huff. I snorted coldly and strolled leisurely into the princess's residence. Zhao Pinyin still trailed behind me. I truly didn't want to see him, so I spun around abruptly and glared at him fiercely. The moment our eyes met, he seemed to understand. His face suddenly turned ashen. Jiao. Don't come here anymore. I turned and returned to the princess's residence. A gaze seemed to follow me all the way, and my heart felt as if it had been pricked. 3 months later, my father and mother were still nowhere to be found. Some said they were dead. Others said they were alive. The emperor decreed that as long as the general and the princess remained missing, they would be considered alive, and everything would continue as before. He treated me with even greater courtesy, lavishing countless gifts upon the princess's residence as if money were no object. I continued living my own life. The difference was, this time I had to handle 6 tutors all by myself. Fortunately, those tutors took pity on me, and not a single one was harsh with me. And I became even more diligent. I thought that by reincarnating and seizing the initiative, I could change my fate. But fate didn't improve, it seemed to grow even worse. At least in my previous life, my mother remained well until I married at 15. But in this life, I no longer even had a mother. I felt something must have gone terribly wrong. Unable to fathom it, I could only search for answers in the sea of books. I began building my own power base. I had wealth and the elders my mother had left behind. Though the path was arduous at first, after the initial chaos, everything gradually fell into place. News from the palace also flowed in steadily. In the palace, Imperial Consort Lin ultimately succeeded in securing Zhao Pinyin as her adopted son. It was said that when Zhao Pinyin was being harshly reprimanded by Empress Ji, the emperor happened to witness it. Zhao Pinyin watched his father, the emperor, as tears streamed down his face. The emperor's heart softened. He severely rebuked Empress Ji, stripped her of the right to continue raising Zhao Pinyin, and placed him under Imperial Consort Lin's care. This move naturally stirred up a storm. Placing the late empress's son under Imperial Consort Lin's care, didn't that transform him from a legitimate heir into a commoner's son? Was this a move to elevate Jiao Jiao? Yet Empress Ji was publicly rebuked by imperial decree, seemingly on the verge of losing her power. If not for Jiao Jiao, then surely for Zhao Pinyin? This was tantamount to deposing the empress. Rumors swirled in an instant. Upon hearing the news, I scoffed. In 2 lifetimes, I'd never seen Zhao Pinyin weep bitterly. His theatrical display was likely orchestrated with Imperial Consort Lin. Was he feigning retreat to advance his claim to the throne? If he joined the power struggle, what would I do? Truth be told, Zhao Pinyin was slightly more tolerable to me than Zhao Jiao, but only slightly. I neither liked nor trusted anyone within the palace walls. Given another chance, I would never stake the entire Long Princess mansion on a single man. But how could I carve out a path for myself? Should I retrace my mother's old path? During the palace coup years ago, when the imperial prince was slain, Mother, as the sole legitimate princess, chose an emperor from among the imperial relatives to ascend the throne. Yet the emperor never trusted her, seeking only to eliminate her. In my past life, father died, mother died, and I didn't live past 20. My judgment isn't better than mother's. Even if I retraced her path, the outcome would likely be the same. Then should I rebel? But I never even saw my father's imperial token. To think I could command an army on the strength of his reputation alone is sure folly. Later, I reasoned, I'm still young. As long as the emperor continues to maintain a pretense of kindness toward me, I can bide my time. The political climate remains treacherous and ever-shifting. Another year, another palace banquet. The emperor gazed at the empty seat beside me, his eyes welling with tears as he sighed. Ah, those days when the eldest princess and her consort were still with us, how joyous the banquets were. Now they are gone, and my sorrow is profound. Me. My heart seethed with rage and disgust. Yet I had to clench my handkerchief, wipe my eyes, and feign grief. My tears were real, the others merely played along with the emperor's charade. Some wept so convincingly that if I were truly a child, I might have been fooled. Soon, Imperial Consort Lin stepped in to smooth things over. Music began to play, and song and dance commenced. Everyone presented gifts and performed skills. The second prince happily introduced a Taoist priest to the emperor, claiming he had gone to great lengths to find this living immortal. I recognized him at once, an old acquaintance, the abbot of Daoguang Temple. The old Taoist, radiating an ethereal aura, presented the emperor with a bottle of golden elixir right then and there. The moment the golden elixir appeared, envious glances swept across the entire hall. Stroking his beard, the emperor, buoyed by the old Taoist's flattery, gradually began to believe he could be compared to the great emperors Qin Shi Huang and Han Wu. I lowered my eyes, finally allowing a hint of a smile to appear. Excellent! My parents are gone. Let that dog emperor join them in death. That formula had been modified. It should only take about 2 years before the emperor meets his end. Then, I'll come forward to accuse Jiao Jiao of murdering the emperor. 1 arrow, 3 targets. This lifetime, I'll make them all bury themselves with my parents. Out of the palace. On the way back, a figure suddenly darted into my carriage. I pressed my sword against his neck. Zhao Pinyin looked at me calmly, seemingly unconcerned by the blade in my hand. He pulled out a pastry from his robe and handed it to me without a word. You haven't eaten. Have a bite. I withdrew my sword and closed my eyes. Get lost. I knew my words cut deep. But I couldn't face the son of my enemy. Zhao Pinyin shoved the pastry into my hand. Jiao, no matter what you think, I haven't changed. He halted the carriage, leaped down, and strode away with purpose. Watching his retreating figure, I crushed the pastry in my palm. Days passed, and I grew older, gradually becoming more cheerful and gaining a reputation. I moved freely among the imperial relatives, carefree and light-hearted. Within the palace, the struggle between Imperial Consort Lin and Empress Ji grew increasingly fierce. Finally, one day, I became a pawn in their game. Empress Ji requested that Emperor Jiao Jiao marry me. The emperor neither agreed nor refused. Jiao Jiao, however, came cheerfully to invite me to tour Shangqing Garden, ostensibly to celebrate my birthday. I refused. Jiao Jiao's face darkened. Jiao, you've come to this. Who else in this world would treat you so well besides me? You were once devoted to my elder brother, but look, since your fall, how many times has he visited you? You raised him in your home, poured your heart into him, yet on your birthday, did he even think of you? I was growing weary. This tactic of striking with a club and offering a date. I'd heard enough of it in my past life. I replied coldly, since my parents passed, I've ceased celebrating birthdays. No need for the second prince to trouble himself. Please leave. Qi Jiao, what if I insist you come? Jiao Jiao now carried a certain princely gravitas, his stern face quite intimidating. He was clearly basking in his triumph. The old Taoist priest had won the emperor's favor. Empress Ji, having taken the youth-preserving elixir from the old Taoist, radiated renewed vitality, poised to regain imperial favor. He shouted at me, likely feeling emboldened by his newfound confidence. Alas, confidence bestowed by others is always illusory. I lifted my gaze and replied deliberately, Second Prince, do you intend to bully an orphaned girl like me, without parents to protect me? If that is your intent, I might as well throw myself to my death at the palace gates and grant your wish. How does that sound? Jiao Jiao's face turned ashen with fury. He gritted his teeth, seething with rage. You're utterly ridiculous. No one is forcing you to go. Don't delude yourself into thinking you're so exquisite that I can't live without you. He flung his sleeves and turned to leave. Suddenly, a fist slammed into his face, sending him stumbling backward and crashing to the ground. It was Zhao Pinyin. Zhao Pinyin's face was ashen as he mounted Jiao Jiao, raining down a barrage of punches. Jiao Jiao fought back fiercely, punches flying. But his strength was no match for Zhao Pinyin, a lifelong martial artist. He was beaten soundly. I watched with my heart in my throat, wishing I could be Zhao Pinyin's fist to land a couple of satisfying blows myself. Guards pulled them apart. Back in the palace, they were both punished. I found a brocade box on the ground, containing a jade hairpin snapped clean in two. The matron bowed and said, "It fell from the first prince." I gave a non-committal "oh" and placed the box back where I found it. Bad luck. News from the palace reported that Jiao Jiao had been beaten badly and went straight to the physician. Jiao Pinyin was punished by kneeling. Consumed by fury, Empress Ji summoned me to the palace for an audience. Her demeanor toward me bore no trace of the affectionate flattery she'd shown when my mother was alive, only thick, unmasked loathing. "Do you know you've erred?" I studied her. Her face glowed, yet her eyes held weariness, like a withered tree forced to bloom a beautiful flower. That beauty-preserving elixir truly wreaks havoc. In my past life, she believed her natural beauty was flawless and never resorted to such things. Seeing my silence, she sneered coldly, "Since this matter began because of you, you shall remain here to tend to the second prince's illness. You may leave only when he has recovered." Jiao Jiao lay in the sickbed, sleeping deeply. Suddenly, I understood, she intended to ruin my reputation. An unmarried woman personally attending to a man. Even if I didn't touch him, the rumors would be murky and indecent. Then, I'd have no choice but to accept marriage to Jiao Jiao. This scheme was as loud as a drum. I'd heard it all before in my past life. This time around, she must still be asleep. I lifted my gaze calmly. "Your Majesty, if my mother were still alive, would you have allowed me to tend to the second prince?" Not only would she not have permitted it, she would have severely punished Jiao Jiao to appease my mother. Empress Ji flew into a rage. Her eyebrows shot up in fury. How dare this vile servant mock this palace and the second prince? Strike her face. A matron approached with a vicious grin, ready to strike me. Suddenly, the door burst open. The emperor stood with his hands behind his back, his cold gaze fixed on the matron about to strike me. "Let's see who dares." The entire room, filled with matrons, palace maids, and eunuchs, hurriedly knelt. Empress Ji paused for a moment before kneeling down, her eyes brimming with tears. "Your Majesty, she has spoken so insolently to this humble servant. I beseech your Majesty to vindicate me." The emperor's voice was icy. "What you think in your heart, do you truly believe I am unaware? I granted you time to reflect, yet you could not wait." Behind the emperor, Imperial Consort Lin bent down, took my hand, and said with heartfelt concern, "Jiao Jiao, you must be terrified. Shall we go eat something together?" My eyes read, I cautiously glanced at the emperor. Seeing his nod of consent, I curtsied and was led away by Imperial Consort Lin. Behind us, the emperor and empress continued their heated argument. Imperial Consort Lin smiled, her steps light and relaxed. Once we reached her palace, she seated herself on the main throne, dismissed the attendants, and looked at me with a faint, ambiguous smile. "Do you truly possess what I desire?" I glanced around, wanting no part in this place. "Where is my cousin?" I asked her. Imperial Consort Lin paused, then smiled with satisfaction. "How thoughtful of you to remember him. He is kneeling in punishment in the bamboo garden. I shall go see him. As a token of my gratitude, I offer this jade hairpin to Her Imperial Highness." I twirled the jade hairpin's handle for emphasis, then smiled as I respectfully presented it to the Imperial Consort before turning to seek Jiao Pinyin. Within that hairpin lay an alchemical formula and a single elixir. Any Imperial Consort of sound mind would know what to do. Only after leaving the Imperial Consort's palace did I finally relax. How could I not be wary when Empress Ji summoned me to the palace? An enemy's enemy is a friend. It must be said, Imperial Consort Lin's arrival with the Emperor couldn't have been more timely. I went to the bamboo garden and saw Jiao Pinyin kneeling beneath the bamboo from afar. His posture was straight and tall, like a pine or bamboo, his gaze fixed on the blue bricks, lost in thought. I hesitated, then walked forward. He lifted his eyes to meet mine. That look was clear and steady. I murmured softly, "Thank you." His eyes brightened instantly. I added, "But you needn't meddle in my affairs anymore." His gaze darkened abruptly. "Jiao Jiao. I'm sorry. Because of that I'm sorry." I couldn't sleep. As the years passed, certain things needed no words, we understood each other implicitly. Jiao Pinyin knew my parents had been killed by his father. He likely also knew my visits to Daoguang Temple weren't for leisure, but for vengeance. That alchemy formula couldn't be hidden from him. Better to hand it over to Imperial Consort Lin, letting her wage a life-or-death battle against Empress Ji. Originally, Imperial Consort Lin held the upper hand. But inexplicably, after recovering from his illness, Jiao Jiao seemed transformed. He devised one strategy after another to help Empress Ji consolidate her position in the imperial harem. He himself advanced by leaps and bounds, emerging as a new man, earning the praise of both the emperor and the ministers. It sent chills down my spine. A person cannot change overnight. If such a transformation were truly possible, there could only be one explanation. Jiao Jiao had also been reborn. The thought plunged me into an icy abyss. Jiao Jiao never came to trouble me again, only sending me a jade pendant through an intermediary. The moment I held it, I wanted to hurl it to the ground. Engraved upon it were small characters, "The bamboo horse keeps the plum blossom's promise." It was the token of love he'd given me when we wed in my previous life. He had returned. The Jiao Jiao who killed me had returned. Suppressing my raging fury, I coldly set the jade pendant down and retreated. One afternoon in September, news kept pouring in from the palace. First, Imperial Consort Lin was confined to her quarters as punishment. Then, the emperor coughed up blood. Ministers rushed to petition the emperor to name a crown prince. Empress Ji had believed Jiao Jiao's position was assured. But just then, Imperial Consort Lin's cat accidentally knocked over the emperor's elixir. After eating a pill, it too coughed up blood on the spot. The formula for the emperor's elixir was leaked by a young Taoist priest and later identified as poisonous by a renowned physician. The priest responsible for concocting the elixir had been personally recommended to His Majesty by Jiao Jiao. Rumors of Jiao Jiao plotting against the emperor soon ran rampant. Though the emperor did not punish Empress Ji or Jiao Jiao, Imperial Consort Lin regained control of the harem. Then, even worse news arrived. Floods ravaged the Jiangnan region, but before flood control teams could reach the area, a rebellion erupted in the southwest. Upon hearing the news, Huzi hastily raised the banner of reconquering lost territories in the early winter. Within a brief span, one calamity followed another. The emperor lay bedridden, unable to attend to state affairs. Ministers bickered incessantly, unable to establish order. Only then did they recall the virtues of their late parents. If only General Qi were still here. If the eldest princess were alive, this wouldn't have happened. Heaven envies talent. Hearing this, I could only laugh. If it were truly heaven envying talent, that would be one thing. But clearly, it was the Son of Heaven who envied talent, unable to tolerate my parents' existence in this world. As the situation grew increasingly chaotic, I resolved to leave the capital. I blended into the stream of people exiting the city, only to be stopped at the gate. "I am going to the Wentang Villa outside the city. How dare you block my way? Princess Minghua, His Majesty has decreed that all imperial relatives are forbidden to leave the city due to the chaos outside." "Then why is he permitted to depart?" I pointed at one of my imperial uncles. His household was already loading a carriage to exit the city, his entourage strutting about with an air of arrogance, as if eager for the entire world to witness his grandeur. The gate guard fell silent. I sneered coldly, "So this is specifically targeting me. Well done. I'll remember this." I ordered my horses to turn back, fully realizing I'd likely never leave the capital. Even now, the emperor sought to drag me down with him, determined to have me die under his watch, come what may. Just as I was lost in turmoil, a nun appeared out of nowhere beside my carriage, her finger lightly touching my neck. Though advanced in years, her eyes remained startlingly clear. "This humble nun seeks an offering from the princess. Not gold, nor silver, only 2 taels of Buddhist compassion and 3 cash of Bodhisattva's grace. Will the princess grant it? And if I refuse? Your Highness is kind-hearted, you surely will." She smiled as she produced a jade token, my mother's keepsake. A storm surged within me, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear it. Regaining my composure, I brought her back to the princess's residence. The nun only said her mission was to escort me out of the city, refusing to utter another word. I asked her what she had in mind. She gave a mysterious smile. Moments later, my long black hair was shaved off, and I too became a young nun. Me. The nun chuckled, well, you're still a bit too handsome. A touch more ordinary would be perfect. She tidied and dressed me up. When I looked in the mirror again, I was just an ordinary little nun. With my appearance altered, I joined the nun once more and headed toward the city gates. This time, inexplicably, the guards were scrutinizing people more closely. The nun and I waited in the line of people exiting the city. Just then, a group of men approached. Their leader, an officer, barked fiercely, "His Royal Highness the Second Prince is leaving the city. Open the gates immediately!" Our group was immediately shoved aside as the soldiers escorted a carriage out of the city. The gate queue fell into chaos. The nun and I had to rejoin the line. Once outside the city, we found 2 horses and rode off. The nun chuckled, "Your Highness, hold on a little longer. Someone will meet us 10 li out." After riding 2 li, an arrow whizzed past. I narrowly dodged it, but my horse was halted. A squad of guards blocked the road, and a carriage stood parked by the roadside. Jiao Jiao stepped down from the carriage with a smile. His eyes burned as he looked at me, saying, "Jiao Jiao, it's been a long time." I looked back at him. This Jiao Jiao was undeniably different now. He carried the aura of a ruler, a presence cultivated over years as crown prince in his previous life. In this lifetime, however, he had lived cautiously and unhappily, unable to develop such charisma. Jiao Jiao had indeed been reborn. Moreover, he knew I had been reborn too. He smiled and held out his hand, "Come here." I ignored him. He didn't seem upset. He continued, "You know why I didn't stop you in the city. I didn't want you exposed before Father Emperor. Back then. I truly made a mistake. I regret it. Since we have a chance to start over, let's forget the past. Let's begin anew." Begin anew? I felt a momentary daze, then couldn't help but laugh. A man who took everything from me, asking me to let go and start anew? What a laughable joke. I coldly snapped, "Move aside." Jiao Jianqing's expression darkened, yet his patience remained unwavering. "Jiao Jiao, don't make this difficult. Come to me now, and I'll forgive all that's past. You'll still be my crown princess, my empress. I'll treat you well." I slowly raised my riding crop, pointing it at him, "Get out of my way." Jiao Jianqing's face was ashen, yet his words were unexpectedly gentle. "I know you don't trust me, but I will keep you by my side forever. I will let you see my heart clearly. Bring the princess to me." At his command, countless guards surged forward. The nun and I exchanged a glance. Suddenly, she slapped the horse's flank. The steed bolted past the encircling guards, and the nun flung me onto its back. "Young laywoman, ride onward. This nun has fulfilled her duty. What must be done is done. From here on, you must rely on yourself." I landed on the horse's back. Startled, it bolted forward. Tears fell from my eyes, but I dared not cry. I could only struggle to calm the horse, urging it to obey. After a long time, the horse finally stopped. I looked back at the road ahead. There, someone awaited me, there was freedom. But behind me, a nun still fought for me. I knew not whose trust she bore, nor why she would shield me with her life. But I knew this, Qi Jiaolua was no coward. Jiao Jianqing sought me, not that nun. If need be, I would die once more before that dog of a traitor. Filled with fiery resolve, I turned my horse and charged back. Guards were already in pursuit. Spotting me, they swung their swords a few times, yet dared not wound me. In moments, I stood before Jiao Jianqing, while the nun lay covered in blood. "Cease!" I commanded coldly. Jiao Jianqing beamed with delight, laughing heartily. "You've returned after all. Keeping that nun's worthless life was not in vain. Jiao Jiao, come back with me. Don't even think about it." A swift horse suddenly charged out from another path. It was Jiao Pinyin, covered in blood. He looked as if he'd just emerged from a pile of corpses, his face deathly pale. The sword on his back dripped blood steadily. At only 15, he radiated the aura of a seasoned killer. A retinue of guards followed him, each equally blood-soaked. He slowly extended his hand toward me, Jiao Jiao, come to me. Zhao Pinyan's face darkened, his jade-like features twisted with deep, seething hatred. Jiao Jiao, come to me. I stood between them. Glancing from one to the other, a storm of emotions surged within me. It seemed Zhao Jinxing hadn't been idle since his rebirth. While busy hunting me down, he'd also arranged for someone to assassinate Zhao Pinyan. With the emperor gravely ill and only 2 sons remaining, if Zhao Pinyan died, whether the emperor liked it or not, Zhao Jinxing would inevitably be named crown prince. He was emulating the actions of Emperor Taizong from years past. How ruthless! I helped the battered nun onto the horse and slowly approached Zhao Pinyan. A faint smile touched his deathly pale face, as if boundless courage surged within him. Pointing his sword at Zhao Jinxing, he coldly declared, prepare to die. Zhao Jinxing sneered, Jiao Jiao, don't regret this. Zhao Pinyan, I cannot ease my hatred until I kill you today. The 2 groups of guards clashed fiercely. I slowly retreated backward. Zhao Pinyan suddenly turned his head. Zhao Jinxing, ever vigilant of my movements, suddenly coldly demanded, Zhao Pinyan, does she have the treasure map to the princess's mansion? The riches there equal the entire national treasury. In that instant, my body froze stiff with cold. I hated Zhao Jinxing intensely, yet feared Zhao Pinyan's greed even more. But Zhao Pinyan's eyes welled with deep reluctance before breaking into a smile. He whispered softly, go. Then, like a sharp blade, he charged toward Zhao Jinxing. I froze for a moment, a twinge of pain in my chest. Why did he let me go? Zhao Jinxing had clearly warned him, why did he still let me go? 1,000 thoughts surged through my mind in that instant, but I had no time to dwell on them. I turned my horse around and galloped away. The sounds of battle behind me gradually faded into the distance. Later, guided by a nun, I met up with my contact again and was taken to a military camp. Inside the camp, I was suddenly embraced by one person, then swept into the arms of another. Just as I felt suffocated, the person finally released me. I looked up, stunned. Father. Mother. My parents weren't dead. Years ago, when father returned to the capital and was attacked, the emperor spared no expense. The assassin targeted only him. Father fell from a cliff and lost his memory. After mother found him, they hid in various places, too afraid to return to the capital. They took father to a small village, changed their names, and lived in obscurity while he recovered. It took father 2 years to regain his health. After that, he began moving around, reconnecting with his former subordinates. When the time was ripe, he raised an army and rebelled. Mother gazed at me intently. Do you blame me and your father? I traced her slightly rough fingers and shook my head gently. How could I? Your survival is my greatest blessing. Mother endured immense suffering. A princess of noble birth, she was unaccustomed to washing clothes, mending garments, weaving, or tilling the fields. Yet to conceal her identity, she did these very things. Moreover, had they not returned then, I would have been safer. Had they returned alive, the emperor's panic would have unleashed a storm of persecution upon the princess's residence. Father stammered his explanation. They had indeed searched for me within the city walls, but spies surrounded the princess's estate, making any attempt too risky. Outside the city, guards patrol constantly, forcing them to arrange the rendezvous point 10 miles beyond the city gates. As for the nun, she was a martial artist mother had befriended. Skilled in combat and driven by chivalry, she volunteered to escort me back. They had calculated everything. Yet they never imagined that within those mere 10 li, so many unforeseen events would unfold. Mother stroked my bald head tenderly. Just know we never meant to hurt you. My precious must have suffered greatly too. I felt a flicker of surprise, unsure if mother meant the hardships I endured during their absence or if she was hinting at something else. Tears welled suddenly in her eyes. My own daughter, how could I not know? You are my daughter, yet not entirely the daughter I once knew. Your past life must have been filled with suffering, wasn't it? My heart pounded violently. I gaped, speechless. But soon, I embraced her and wept uncontrollably. Yes, I am your daughter, yet not entirely. In my past life, I truly endured immense suffering. Stammering, I recounted my rebirth, my father's death in battle, my mother's early passing, Jiao Jiang's ascension to the throne, and my own demise in the cold palace. Mother flew into a rage upon hearing this. That traitor dares to do such things. Father angrily crushed a teacup in his fist. I felt relieved. Jiao the dog was in for a world of trouble. I lay in the military camp, biding my time until death. Occasionally, I thought of Zhao Pinyin, wondering if he had escaped safely. But now that we stood on opposing sides, learning his whereabouts was no easy task. Our forces advanced steadily. Father excelled in commanding troops, mother in politics, and with vast wealth at their disposal, their alliance was seamless. Moreover, mother was the legitimate imperial princess who had personally elevated the emperor to the throne. Yet he had schemed against her relentlessly. She stood for righteousness. In an instant, the entire realm turned against him, rallying to mother's side. Meanwhile, the imperial court descended into internal strife. I heard that Jiao Jiang sought to kill the emperor and seize the throne prematurely, but Zhao Pinyin exposed his plot and saved the emperor. The emperor imprisoned Jiao Jiang and Empress Ji, then named Zhao Pinyin crown prince. Even more astonishingly, as my father's armies approached the capital, he hastily abdicated. Zhao Pinyin reigned as crown prince for only 7 days before ascending the throne as emperor. That nun now serves as my personal guard. When she shared this story with me, her eyes seemed to hold 1,000 sighs. This new emperor truly is a tragic figure. I froze, momentarily speechless. Zhao Pinyin had indeed suffered. He lost his mother in childhood, endured hardship under Empress Ji, and later, while studying with me, was often bullied by me. Later, he was raised by imperial consort Lin. Though she treated him kindly, their bond was bound by interests. How much genuine affection could there truly be? His ascension to the throne was merely the emperor's way of discarding this mess. In this world, those who truly care for him are indeed few. But no suffering compares to that endured by the common people. The nun nodded in agreement. If you two truly clash in the future, what will you do, young lady? My heart lurched, and I stared at her in shock. The nun sighed deeply. He is now the emperor. He values loyalty and righteousness. He has the makings of a good ruler. If he reorganizes the military and confronts your father, both sides will suffer losses. But he is still too young to withstand your parents' combined might. In the end, he may still face the fate of a prisoner. He saved your life. We of the martial world value repaying kindness above all else. Caught between them, you will face a true dilemma. Young lady, you must think this through carefully. The nun's words left me speechless. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Unbidden, memories of Zhao Pinyin flooded my mind. As children, I envied his freedom to snack outside the palace walls, blind to the lingering sadness in his eyes. Later, we studied together, vying to take the blame for each other's punishments. Those days felt joyful, though they were fleeting. Then came the assassination of my father and the disappearance of my mother. From that moment on, he and I became complete strangers. In truth, our friendship was never deep. Yet it must be said, he always stood by me. I held the key to the secret treasury. With that wealth, he could have done so much. But he spared me. I couldn't fathom it, and eventually drifted off in a daze. For many days after, I lived in a haze. Until my father's army approached the capital, I lived in constant dread, fearing the two armies would clash in a fight to the death. I didn't want my father harmed, nor did I want Zhao Pinyin dead. My heart burned with anxiety, blisters forming around my mouth. Then came the news, Zhao Pinyin had surrendered. I was stunned. He surrendered. Did he realize this was a lifelong disgrace, one that would be written into the history books? Whenever his name was mentioned henceforth, everyone would say, the deposed emperor, the surrendered emperor. Why did he surrender? If he had fled south, he could have established his own small court. I murmured. The nun lowered her gaze. If the princess does not understand, this humble nun understands even less. I only know he is not without feeling for you. My heart thundered. My parents arrived in the capital to fetch me. Amidst a chorus of flattery, I took residence in the Jade Lotus Palace within the Forbidden City. Life in the palace flowed calmly, as always. My mother was surprised by my familiarity with the palace grounds. I whispered softly, I lived here in my past life. I never left, not even in death. The palace was a cage. Escape was only possible by becoming the one with power and influence. That's why the concubines fought and schemed, even the eunuchs and palace maids were caught up in it. They didn't necessarily crave power and influence for its own sake. Sometimes, it was simply a matter of survival, of not being trampled underfoot like an insignificant insect. Mother sighed, that's why one must become the most powerful. I made a mistake back then. I shouldn't have shied away from high office simply because I was a woman. Instead, I propped up a useless drunkard who wasted the common people's time. Mother, you have a chance now, I said, my spirits lifting. But what about your father? If I ascend, it would be unfair to your father who risked his life for me. If he takes the throne, the imperial clan will be unsettled, leading to internal strife. If we both ascend, we cannot guarantee we won't be driven apart. Then what should we do? I grew anxious. Mother looked at me with a burning gaze and smiled. You asked me earlier how I would deal with Jiao Jiao. Barring any surprises, he will likely be imprisoned for life. A chill gripped my heart. This shouldn't be Jiao Jiao's fate. He cared deeply for the common people and laid down his weapons of his own accord. He didn't deserve this ending. Mother. I too pity his plight, but such is destiny. However, if you ascend the throne as empress, things would naturally be different. Under my parents' protection, I ascended the throne as empress. After the coronation ceremony concluded, I went to see Jiao Jiao. He was imprisoned in the imperial dungeons. I walked slowly through the long, gloomy corridor toward his cell. Before I drew near, I heard a roar. Jiao Jiao, you coward! Why don't you show your former mettle and fight them? You dared rebel against me, but why won't you rebel against that she-dog? Speak up, you sycophant! You're nothing but a spineless coward who went soft over a woman. You'll have no face to meet the Jiao family ancestors after you die. I spit on you. It was Jiao Jiao. Jiao Jiao coldly retorted, shut up. I stood quietly for a moment, waiting for their quarrel to end before stepping out. Seeing me, Jiao Jiao went mad. His hands gripped the fence tightly as he stared at me with the ferocity of a wolf or tiger. Jiao Jiao, Jiao Jiao, you came to see me, didn't you? His eyes burned intensely, as if filled with 1,000 unspoken words. Too much stood between us now. In my previous life, on the day he killed me, the snow was bone-chillingly cold. Yet compared to the excruciating agony, that freezing snow numbing my body felt almost merciful. I watched my own corpse go from warm to stiff, then saw him bury me in a desolate graveyard. A flimsy coffin, a shallow grave. He displayed his utter ruthlessness toward me in full. I witnessed him embracing that favored concubine who resembled me, reveling night after night in revelry. I even stood at the gates of the cold palace, my heart heavy with sorrow. But what does it matter? He killed me with his own hands. For wealth that could rival a nation, to prevent the remnants of my princess's household from rising again, to secure his dynasty for all eternity. I was, after all, the one he would ultimately discard. Reborn into this life, my affection for him had long since faded. I was even glad he had been reborn too, so I could repay every debt of hatred and every grievance. I raised my hand, signaling for the door to open. Jiao Jiao's eyes lit up. Jiao Jiao, I wronged you before. I shouldn't have doubted you, shouldn't have banished you to the cold palace. He drew near, reaching to embrace me, but suddenly clutched his stomach. Staggering back, he stared in horror at the dagger piercing his abdomen as blood spilled from his mouth. I clapped my hands. So this was the sensation of a blade piercing flesh. My first kill was Jiao Jiao. The wheel of fortune had turned. I murmured softly, you killed me once, I killed you once. Our debts are settled. Jiao Jiao collapsed with a thud, floundering like a fish out of water, struggling feebly. I stepped out of the cell without a second glance at him and headed to the neighboring cell. Jiao Jiao sat in silence. He seemed utterly unsurprised to see me kill. I asked him, why did you surrender? If you'd gone south, you could have continued as emperor. At least the history books wouldn't have painted you so grimly. I disdain actions that tear a nation apart. Oh! Still that haughty, brooding youth, unchanged from before. I remarked indifferently, then do you know what awaits a prisoner? Kill me if you wish. Ha! I am the emperor. How I conduct myself requires no lecture from you. You desire death? I shall deny it. I shall humiliate you until you regret this. I had him hauled out of his cell and installed him as my personal guard within the palace. After a moment's silence, he accepted the post. My parents remained uneasy about him. I assured them it would be fine. I recalled my past life. After my death, he led troops into the Forbidden Palace. Instead of seeking out Jiao Jiao first, he killed my body double. That day, his eyes were bloodshot. I always believed his eyes blazed with bloodlust, or perhaps with such deep hatred for me that he could not tolerate anyone resembling me. Now, however, I suddenly doubted that. Perhaps I had always misunderstood Zhao Pinyin. I wanted to keep him close and observe him further. The former emperor died. My parents did not kill him, but confined him to the abandoned palace. Consumed by constant terror, he literally scared himself to death. Empress Ji hanged herself from the beams of the old emperor's palace. A servant bearing a grudge against her deliberately spread the false news of Jiao Jinxing's death. Believing it true, she took her own life. In truth, Jiao Jinxing survived. My blade work was poor, that single stroke failed to finish him. He languishes in the abandoned garden, clinging to life, slowly awaiting the day his body rots away. I find this fitting. After all, in my previous life, I languished for years in the cold palace, consumed by fear and worry, wasted away like a ghost. There's no reason he should die with dignity. I sent an imperial physician to treat him, but only halfway, just enough to ease his pain before forcing him into grueling labor. His pampered aristocrat's ailments vanished instantly. Watching him fight another imprisoned royal for scraps of food, only to be kicked down, unleashed the darkness within me. Zhao Pinyin gently covered my eyes. Look away. He's a filthy wretch, don't dirty your eyes. I snapped coldly, how dare you? Touch the emperor? He laughed in exasperation, where did you get such majesty at your age? If you must emulate your mother, at least copy her intellect, not her speech. How dare you insult my mother's speech? I wouldn't dare. If you want to see, then look. He released his hand. I shot him a fierce glare before haughtily climbing into the carriage. Once inside, I lowered my head, eyes cast downward. Yes, it was all over. I couldn't wallow in the past, unable to extricate myself. That person was no longer worth looking at. The palace dismissed the former consorts. Those unwilling to return could seek solace in the imperial monastery. Before her departure, Imperial Consort Lin insisted on seeing me one last time. I shot Zhao Pinyin a half-smile, then took him to meet her. Imperial Consort Lin had removed her jeweled ornaments, her hair bound simply with a cloth cord. The moment she saw me, she exhaled softly and smiled. I feared your majesty would not come. I never imagined you would still deign to see me. I have never forgotten the life you saved me, Lady Lin, I replied calmly. Had she not brought the emperor to rescue me in time that year, I likely would have fallen into Empress Ji's clutches. Though escape might still have been possible later, it would never have been as straightforward as her intervention. Imperial Consort Lin smiled. It is good that your majesty remembers. That was not so much helping your majesty as it was me having a need. We each got what we wanted. Today, I am entering the monastery. If I do not speak now, it may be too late. I am advanced in years and have little left to cling to. Your majesty spared my daughter from blame and preserved her princess's dignity, a kindness I shall forever cherish. But I have a son. He's a tight-lipped fellow, keeping many things bottled up inside. As his mother, if I don't speak now, I fear your majesty might misunderstand. My heart stirred. Empress Dowager Lin had no biological sons, only an adopted son, Zhao Pinyin. Was she referring to Zhao Pinyin? She smiled. Though my son reigned as emperor for only a few days, he could have refused the throne that very day. When the deposed emperor, unwilling to bear the shame of being a ruler who lost his kingdom, issued an edict transferring the throne to my son, he could have rejected it. He saw that if he refused, the deposed emperor would kill me and his sister. That is why he accepted. He was talented and intelligent. Had he chosen to resist to the death, he could have held out for years, or even governed from across the river alongside the general. Yet he surrendered. He chose to bear the scorn of history rather than resist. Whether for the common people or for the girl he loved, he did what no man could do. The deposed emperor howls his curses at him night and day within the palace, calling him a worthless man. Yet I see him as a true man of honor and compassion. Your Majesty, what do you think? As she spoke these words, tears welled in her eyes, brimming at the rims, poised to fall yet held back, like dewdrops on a lotus petal, breathtakingly beautiful. Suddenly, I understood why the deposed emperor cherished her. What I hadn't anticipated was that what I'd assumed was merely a mutually beneficial arrangement between her and Jiao Pinyin had, in fact, blossomed into something resembling genuine mother-son affection. Jiao Pinyin is quite fortunate. I nodded. Lady Lin, I take note of your words today. Yet I wonder, who is the maiden truly cherished in your son's heart? Empress Dowager Lin gazed deeply at me, opening her mouth to speak. Suddenly, a figure leapt down from the trees and knelt before me on one knee. I humbly beg your Majesty's permission to escort my mother to Xiangshan Temple to pay her respects to the Buddha. Empress Dowager Lin sighed deeply and fell silent. I fixed my gaze on Jiao Pinyin, uttered a single word of approval, good, and turned to leave. Jiao Pinyin was gone for 5 or 6 days before returning. I heard that after settling Empress Dowager Lin, he had spent money repairing the temple steps to ease her access. Only after completing these tasks did he return to the palace. Upon his return, he dutifully resumed his role as my personal guard. Together, we weathered countless assassination attempts and endured many sleepless nights. When ministers' arguments gave me headaches, he would massage my throbbing temples. When my monthly period arrived, he thoughtfully prepared the necessary items. I believed we would remain this way forever. Until my age advanced, and my parents began selecting candidates for my imperial husband. Amidst a sea of flower-like beauties, I gradually lost myself. This one, and this one too. At the flower viewing banquet, I selected several young lads in succession. Each possessed his own unique charm. I found each one appealing. Jiao Pinyin suddenly grew angry. He flung his sleeves aside and, for the first time, refused to carry out my order to bring them before me. I ignored him and had others fetch those young gentlemen. Being surrounded by so many handsome men felt utterly delightful. Especially when they vied for my attention, displaying their talents and eager to showcase every skill they'd ever learned, that sensation was even more exhilarating. I was dazzled by the choices, unable to rest easy even when I lay down to sleep that night. In my dream, I heard someone confront me, Qi Jiaolua, how could you do this to me? You're so heartless. You're so heartless. I opened my eyes to find someone whispering softly beside my bed. I replied indifferently, in what way am I heartless? Tell me. The lamp flared to life, casting Jiao Pinyin's face in a flushed glow. He took 2 steps back, yet did not flee. Instead, he gazed at me with eyes full of complexity. Those eyes held the love of 2 lifetimes, like a beacon that had traversed mountains and rivers, piercing through time itself. It seemed the Jiao Pinyin of my past life had returned unknowingly. I smiled as I pulled back the quilt. Are you coming? He gritted his teeth and came. The next day, rumors spread like wildfire that an imperial guard had volunteered to share the bed and become the emperor's intimate companion. Jiao Pinyin's face darkened. I laughed until I doubled over. Rest assured, I'll give you a proper title. I won't take advantage of you for nothing. His face darkened further. I don't want that. So you wish to be my secret lover? I asked calmly. He gritted his teeth. That's not what I want. You know that. I smiled. I did know, but how could I be certain I was right if you never said it? Why not tell me yourself? That night, my voice was hoarse for days. He finally made me understand exactly what he meant. Later, I made him my imperial consort. The sole master of the harem. After that, we had a son and a daughter. The daughter took after me, a soft, cuddly bundle, utterly endearing. My son took after him, a tight-lipped gourd who swallowed his grievances whole. Frustrated, he'd hug the little meatball and scold him, "If you have something to say, you should say it. If you like a new, you should play with her. Otherwise, when she falls for another young man, you'll be the one left heartbroken. Repeat after me, I like a new. I want to play with you. I like a new, I want to play with you," the little bundle repeated loudly. His parents and I laughed until we were breathless. To have both parents alive and children of my own, this was a scene I never dared dream of in my past life. To have it come true in this life felt like a dream. During our casual chats, we spoke of past lives and present ones. I asked him, "Why did you raise an army and rebel in your last life?" He gazed deeply at me. "As a child, I was a silent soul. I secretly admired a little beauty but dared not speak. Later, I regretted it. So there was someone who once cherished me in secret. This life of mine, I have no regrets. The rest of my days, I shall spend ensuring he has none either." The story ends here. Thank you all for your company. See you in the next chapter.